Hey guys, so here's the movie review for House of Wax 2005. Now the 2000s were the remake craze as far as horror went. And that's when we had films like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake absolutely blow the doors up as far as its success. And for the next 6 or 7 years, that's about all we got predominantly in the horror genre was remakes of all these proven classics. Some were very well received, some not so much. But one of those remakes from that era that I always found to be really solid and completely unfair, overly looked, is the House of Wax remake. Now this is a film that I have never seen the original. Honestly, to this day I still haven't seen the original, but I'm planning to watch the Vincent Price classic. That certainly has a fan base to it, as all the films that he did back in the day. And what I really enjoyed about this remake was that they definitely pushed things into the modern era, but they did everything that era of horror needed to really stand out predominantly, with the gore, with the more demanding nature and the identity nature of the concept of the film, and for all the elements that tend to satisfy most easy to please horror fans, especially slasher fans, that are very prevalent in this film. It always puzzled me why it hasn't really gotten much of a fan base, especially at the time of the release when this was all the rage. You got the demented concept, you got a pretty cool stand-up looking killer, you got some really nice kills that predominantly use practical effects, you got hot and sexy cast. What was missing? It even had a soundtrack was filled to the brim with bands that were all the rage at that time. You got Joy Division, you got My Criminal Romance, Deftones, and even Disturbed. And the basic premise of House of Wax, you got a group of friends that are traveling cross country to a football game, and they seemingly get stranded in this really creepily abandoned that featured this marvelous wax museum. They slowly start to discover that it's not just a museum that's wax, it's the entire town, including its residents. The movie theater, the pet store, the gas station, even the restaurants in town are all completely fake. The thing that I always really enjoyed about House of Wax, I only appreciate more throughout the years, is how they generally took a very classic concept that has been adapted multiple times. I mean, the Vincent Price film wasn't even the first adaptation of this story, and they brought that into the modern times by highlighting and wrapping up all of the more demented and morbid elements to really appeal to the torture era that this film was released upon. I mean, you have a premise here where you have these psycho killers that are taking people and they are casing them while they are alive in wax. Create this wax museum, even more so wax town. I mean, just the idea of being somebody who is immobilized, stripped of all their clothes and hair on their body, being covered in scalding hot wax, and then be sculpted and molded into a wax version of myself and propped up into some kind of weird pose inside of this town where I cannot move, I can't call for help, and I can't escape while I slowly succumb to the extreme slow agony of burnt flesh, hydration, and starvation. That's messed up. You don't have to have saw traps or show people cutting off limbs or having body parts actually exiled from their body to get across to how demented this concept is. All you need is a scene of Jared Padalecki, arguably the best looking person in this movie, and a collection of all good looking people having his hair, his mustache, his eyebrows, and everything stripped off, and having scalding hot wax sprayed all over him and stuck at the piano, where as soon as his friend starts to peel off the skin and trying to get him out of this encased imprisonment, all you see is the burnt flesh and muscle tissue coming off. If all of that in a single tear, showing how agonizing this whole experience is. I mean, most of us has fears of things like claustrophobia or being buried alive or being immobilized or in tight spaces that we can't escape. This is all of that put together, just being thrown into a situation where you're in constant pain. You're like one of those haunted house paintings where the only thing you can move is your eyes. And if you're not into that demented torture type stuff. There's still plenty more of traditional slasher violence and gore in this film to boot. The film actually got a really solid collective of carnage. And here you got the Achilles and it's being cut, got decapitations, all good classic stuff. You even have Paris Hilton with that infamous still scene where she got that pipe thrown through her head, then ironically dies on her knees. I mean, come on. You know that was not the kill, that was scripted. That was something after they cast her. You even have our final girl here that goes through absolute heck, having her lips glued together, having her finger cut off. They really go for broke in this film. And the villains themselves are not impervious to having really gnarly stuff happening to them. I mean, you have an arrow through the guy's chest. That's so painful that he vomits as soon as he tries to take it out. One of the things that I think makes a lot of the kills and carnage in this film at least stand the test of time. Seemingly a lot of it's practical effects. I'm sure there's a little CGI help here and there, but we were not quite in that era where CGI blood and gore started to run a little bit rampant. We were still trying to hold on to some of those classic elements of slashers and the horror of the heyday. So you do have a lot of really cool practical shots here, and even when you do have obviously CGI shots like a decapitated head turning to the side and can continue to blink, like it's not one of those uncanny valley moments. It's actually done for a little bit of comedic effect that I think works well. And even beyond the gore, the film has this very nasty, grimy aesthetic to it, both with these kind of hit characters that they encounter throughout the film, as well the dirtiness of this town, the wax machine being covered in dirt and dust and cobwebs, and even how perversely these very good-looking humans start to become more and more disheveled and covered with grease and sweat and everything as they go through this thing. Demented heck of town. I like how the way that they have the almost Texas Chainsaw vibe going on here, and I think they do a good job at keeping a continuous ramping up throughout the film to really heighten how gross this concept is, how messed up this town is, and how messed up this town and its two inhabitants are. One of the best things that this film has going for it that I never see it gets credit for is, I think, the production value and the set design in this film. I mean, you have a very ambitious concept of an entire town made of wax and animatronics and figurines, where they do a really cool thing with the way that they shoot, and in certain sequences where you have actual real life actors standing, and then later on you have protagonists come back to the same area and they know everything is fake, and they clearly replaced them with animatronics and wax dolls, and they have this really cool visual dichotomy throughout the film that's solely unveiled, but with the way that is this wax museum is realized, where the walls and the tables and the stairs and everything is made out of wax. How they were able to just take certain shots and really do make you believe that this entire house was built of wax, even to the point where you have certain segments like the Jared Padalecki scene where he's getting encased in wax. Just a little warehouse, you know, Vincent's little workshop. It's such a gnarly looking set where all these different pumps and flame and cauldrons and all these different nozzles, they're spraying wax everywhere, and all the little sharp tools that he has around, like, again, for that Texas Chainsaw vibe, so in its own style. We have a type of horror film where your protagonists are essentially slowly descending into the heck that is this setting that they have kind of found themselves isolated into. The production design is 100% the piece that has to work. I mean, think back to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it's just this innocuous enough looking house that as soon as you walk into, you see the sliding door, and then you start to see these feathers, crap everywhere, then skulls, and the more you descend in this house, the more you literally descend into heck. And House of Wax is one of those films that I think really effectively does that. Even as go through the different areas of this town, and they end up finding themselves inside of the House of the Killers, as well as the Wax Museum, as well as the movie theater that is filled to the brim. People who literally died and started to deteriorate from the inside out. You get a gunshot and cockroaches and stuff's coming out. It really does slowly ramp up the nastiness and the ickiness of the visuals that they're going for in a way that I think makes the film hold up. Another thing I will say about this film that I always enjoyed is that I really like the cast here. Now you have Alicia Keys-Burke as one of your leads here. I always enjoyed her as an actress. Whenever it was comedy or horror or whatever she was doing, she was always somebody that stood out. That 2000 generation. Jared Padalecki, I mean, I'm a massive Supernatural fan. I think that Jared Padalecki is awesome. He was in the Friday 13th remake as well. He always does very good. He always does have kind of that surprising angle to him where you expect his character to be around a little bit longer than he actually is. Brian Van Holt, who's playing both of the villains, Vincent as well as Bo here. One of them masked and one of them unmasked. I think he does a fantastic job. Another actor that I always found to be pretty underrated. He always has this nature to him that's really interesting, where he always has a little bit of edge to his performance. He always has a little bit of edge to his character, but there's an inherent charm there that I can totally buy into him not being this immediate red flag to our characters, even though they're in this weird town and things certainly starting to pop up as very unnatural. The more that they explore it, the fact that he is, oh yeah, I mean, come down, gas station, oh, the one size you need we don't have, come on up to the house. I kind of buy it. His nature bringing someone with just enough confidence where they're like, this scene's messed up, but I trust you. When he's fully revealed to be the villain, I think he does a great job. I mean, Bo obviously is the character where he gets most to do. Vincent is more the silent Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers type character. You don't really get much outside of just a creepy look from that side of his performance. But as a whole, these two twins who end up being revealed to be our killers, I think it does a very great job at bringing both of them to life. And you know what? I give her flowers. Paris Hilton was the main thing that this film notoriety was for at the time. Like, oh look, she's in a film now. You know, she was very famous at the time for her reality show, Nicole Richie, as well as something else. So on its surface, this looks like one of many times that they cast a famous person like a music artist who has no acting ability, no acting training whatsoever, to have a popular name on the poster. I actually think she does pretty good. Like, she's not killing it by any means. It's no secret why she didn't go on to become this horror mainstay, but for what her character of Paige requires, which predominantly is just kind of embodying that Paris Hilton persona, which clearly she's going to be very good at. I think she serves well as being the hot, unassuming character who eventually gets killed. Like, seen a lot worse. The only one that really stood out to me, that always kind of been one of those things that I go back and forth on, is Chad Michael Murray's character. I think his performance is good, but the way they characterize his character, I never really found to be that satisfying or redemption arc. Essentially, you start the film throughout most of the first half, and even further out through the runtime. He's just that cocky douchebag. You can totally see why he's always out of jail, and you wonder why people are even friends with him. He even's got this cantankerous relationship with his sister, who seemingly is the one person left who gives a shred of you know what about him, beyond just he's the cool guy to hang out with. And so he's really a challenging character to get into for the most part of the runtime of this film, because his behavior is so off-putting. Even him just being there, he kills the fun at every single turn, because he's always trying to be that douchebag. He's always trying to be the hard one, trying to do whatever what the douchebag move at the moment to do. And even though they try to redeem him by having his relationship with his sister start to be healed throughout the ridiculousness and craziness of the situation, having them to team up and having to survive together, and very much being her protector throughout a lot of the second half of the film, and I just really feel like that was enough. No, I don't end the movie hating him, but I end the movie tolerating him. I just wish they found a way to make him a bit more humanized, that they found a way to make him a bit of more of a character that I root for. And the fact that this, okay, yeah, he knows how to street fight somewhat. He can use a crossbow, so he serves a purpose. I want him to serve more person than that. Even though they kind of set this whole thematic thing where he calls himself the evil twin, and at least accused Burke is a twin, which obviously has this mirror to Vincent and Bo, where one of them was the evil twin, the other one was very much like brought into this very messed up darkness because of his evil twin. Like, even that feels so surface level and almost lazy writing that doesn't do anything for me. So I like the fact that we get a character that can fight back. I like the fact that we got a character in slasher film that can actually do significant damage over and over again to a very strong, very sadistic killers, because more times than not it feels like everybody's cannon fodder, and then the final girl and the final guy just gets lucky at the end. And this is not one of those films, so I appreciate that angle of his character, but beyond that element I wanted something more to grab onto. It's one, you know, that bothers some people and others annoyed that you even bring it up, because they consider it this inherent piece to any slasher film, which even mentally impose, and that is really dumb character decision. But yes, in certain horror scenarios you have to have your characters behave in a little bit more of a dumber than reality mode, because otherwise the film would be 30 minutes long. But I do think some films take it a little bit far. I think some films really fail to justify the decision making of those characters. Now, of course, you can explain it away with your brain not really working in its best nature whenever you're in this heightened, frightened state, whenever you're trying to make a decision quick, always make the best decision, and all that's fine. But you have characters that's just literally ignoring every red flag in this town, even when it's proven without a shadow of a doubt. These people are messed up, and there's something weird going on. Even the fact that they had this burial ground of these rotting bodies that they almost fall into. And the most messed up looking podunk guy with 3 teeth is the one who's willing to drive them into town. Like, there's everything in this film that's telling, get out of Dodge, man. Even the fact that they stopped to camp in the abandoned woods. It's like, have you ever heard of a hotel? They look very well off. What are you doing? But even more so, like in the third act of the film, like when you're basically left with 2 characters who are trying to get out of this town, at some point the film really stopped having to get out of the town be their objective, and they are trying to figure out what's going on in this town. Like, they're trying to investigate stuff, get deeper in these houses. It just feels like, why are we doing this? Aside from the fact we have a film and we need to have the runtime going. Like, why would you not just immediately escape, go hide in the woods, or just run until your legs don't work anymore? So if you can get past that, which I can absolutely can for the most part, it's a film that you still can enjoy with all the classic slasher horror elements to it. But it goes without saying, there's a lot of dumb stuff that these people do in this film to keep the concept moving for 90 minutes. All the kudos that I will give to the score here and the practical effects and set design goes all out CGI in the last 10 minutes whenever you have the house wax melting. It's not very convincing. Doing this post-converted like melting effect on everything, it was kind of killed realism that I think they did a great job at executing earlier on in this film. But I get it, they want to go big, they want to go epic, they want to have this entire museum go down in flames. Oh, if there would have been a more budget-friendly way they did it than the way they did it, but it's one of the elements in film where suddenly all the visuals seems to go away and you're like, biggest missed opportunity that I think that I always kind of against this film is that it tries to have these plots reveals and these plot twists a couple points in the film that I never really felt surprising or satisfying in any way, and it drags down the storytelling a little bit. Like, you have this opening, this cold opening of these 2 kids kids where one of them seems well behaved enough. He's sitting there kicking his feet up, eating Cheerios. This messed up, maniacal kid dragged him by the dad, and they're strapping him down. He's got all these rubs and scars on his wrist, showing that they do this all the time. And then halfway through the film, they're like, hey, surprise, surprise. Bo is actually the one who's the crazy one. And it's like, well, no, he's not. Was that supposed to be a surprise? This has been messed up for 30 minutes. I'm sorry, was I supposed to believe that the mute guy that wears the mask was the one who's pulling the screens the whole time? Man, I've seen Texas Chainsaw before. This ain't new. And you have the final note of the film ends off, which is supposed to be a little surprise that it's very clearly sequel bait, and it's one of the most uninspiring, lazy examples of sequel bait that I have ever seen in my life, only being rivaled by other films in this era, the Friday the 13th remake, where it's like, got you, Jason's back, Jason's still alive. Put some effort into that. Like, there's a reason why it became a cliche and a trope that Scream made fun of. It's because most of the time it's just absolute bullcrap. This is one of those examples where all throughout the film you're told that Trudy, her husband, had 2 kids. Every single time they're in the houses, the only evidence of 2 kids. The opening of the film only showed 2 kids. We needed to, in case this is a really big hit, which unfortunately it wasn't, we need to leave something open for another one. What do you get at the end of it? You get a dispatch guy that goes, hey, just open a folder and Trudy had 3 kids. Didn't have 2 kids, she had 3. Get out of here with that. Like, Damon Harriman is awesome. He's really continuing to go on to do more and more awesome roles. So having him to be the villain in the House of Wax sequel probably would have worked out fine, but get out of here with that. With that twist, those are the elements that as a horror fan and as a slasher fan, I get actively annoyed when it feels like an afterthought. Like, how long do you have to really have to think and to go to the drawing board, come up with an idea to set that up better or pay it off better? It just feels like a studio note after they shot most of the film. It's like, hey, make sure you leave a tease in there. Well, Damon, sit on that truck. I got an idea. Nah, try more. Overall, this is an awesome watch. I do want to leave this at the end of the movie review because I thought this would be pretty cool if you got this far into it. I saw this in the theaters when it first came out. Actually, when the movie theater, my local movie theater opened, this was one of the horror films that was opening day or whatever when it opened. And I saw it like 3 times when it came out. And it's a pretty awesome movie, man. If you haven't seen this, definitely go check it out. It is an awesome slasher film. It's got a lot of stuff that's in it that's pretty cool, especially the kill scenes and all that stuff. So there you go, guys. Here's the movie review of House of Wax 2005. I hope you liked this movie review. Please like it, please subscribe, check out the X page, and have an awesome day, guys.